Hey guys, it's your girl, Crystal Nicole. So Tory Lanez and his attorneys have handed over their sentencing recommendation to the judge since sentencing is coming up on Monday. Now, Tory maintains his innocence and they are recommending probation and rehab or the lower term of 3 years in prison if probation just can't be an option. So let's go ahead and break down their recommendation. Now, prosecutors had recommended a 13-year sentence based on sentencing enhancements to reach that number. But the defense is saying that the prosecutors deviated away from their own policies regarding sentencing enhancements to even get that number. So one example is how their directive states that two extraordinary circumstances can justify sentencing enhancements. One is extensive physical injury, and the other is a weapon being used in a manner showing extreme and immediate threat to life. And last but not least, their directive states that if a defendant isn't eligible for probation, the presumptive sentence will be the lower term unless extraordinary circumstances justify the middle term. So what this means is that Megan did not have an extensive physical injury. She didn't even have any nerve damage to either of her feet, and she only sustained minor shrapnel wounds that had her up, walking, and twerking in pools not too long after the incident. She had no real physical therapy for her injuries that we have heard about, and it didn't seem to affect her work. So extensive physical injury would be very hard to prove. Now, a weapon being used in an extreme manner to cause threat to life also does not fit Tory based on all witness statements given alone. So let's break that down. Megan, the victim and first witness to testify, is the only one, who said that Tory shot her while yelling "dance bitch." But then she says that he was in shock that he even shot her, and he was immediately apologetic and he ran over to assist her. So that kills the notion that he was trying to actually harm her, nor was he threatening her life or attempting to end it. Sean Kelly doesn't even have Tory shooting at Megan, pulling out the weapon, or even firing it in her direction. He put all of that on Kelsey. Kelsey was the one he saw shots come from first and pointed in Megan's direction. But yet, your non-biased reporters tried to say that the car wasn't shot up. So how could Kelsey have been firing into the car where Megan was? If Megan was kicking at Kelsey or she was half in, half out the car, those bullets from Kelsey would have ricocheted off the ground and the shrapnel would have hit Megan in the foot. Kelsey did not have to be shooting into the car or even at the car to hit Megan in the feet. The gun was obviously aimed at the ground where Megan's feet would have been. So Kelsey being the one who hit her in the feet isn't so far-fetched now, is it? We also love to ignore the part that if we use Sean Kelly as the person who accused Tory of the shooting, it does not take away from the fact that we still have a different story than what Megan gave of how that shooting went down. And she was not walking away when shot since she fell from the vehicle and crawled into the adjacent driveway. Correct? So that still makes Megan a liar. Correct? Okay. Kelsey also does not have Tory shooting at Megan in an extreme and life-threatening manner. In fact, she took the stand and said that she lied when she said that he did that, and that the only reason she even told that story is because Megan and her team, plus prosecutors, have been threatening her with sex tapes and jail time if she refused to come forward. She said that Megan's team told her that she stepped on glass and that she never saw Tory do anything to Megan, and that Megan was stupid for coming up with the dance bitch part, and that she hadn't been paid off by anybody. Those were all lies. Then we have Justin, the security guard, who was supposed to come in and say that Tory told him that he was the one who did the shooting that night, but he had said that he had shot into the air and at the ground. Funny how both Justin, Kelsey, and Sean Kelly all said Tory had fired into the air that night, the same way that was constantly reported when this situation first hit the blogs. All the reports was that someone had fired shots into the air before fleeing the scene. Nobody ever said that anybody shot anybody, not even Sean Kelly. Megan and her team were the only ones pointing the finger at Tory immediately after this happened. Since Tory tried to stop the shooting, according to Sean Kelly, it would explain those shots into the air. And just in case people forgot, we have 2 witnesses that say they heard a man yelling after the shots were fired. Sean said Tory got out the car yelling and cursing after the shots from Kelsey. And the neighbor across the street, Miguel, told police that he heard that same yelling. And what he heard was, "Are you crazy? What the fuck are you doing?" Now, we know Megan and Kelsey weren't yelling anything, excuse me, because they were both in shock and awe at the time. They don't even mention screaming or making any noise when this happened. They claim they just froze. Only Tory is ever accused of yelling anything after the shots were fired. And if that's what he said, are y'all telling me that he yelled at himself that he was crazy and asked what the fuck he was doing, since he was the one who just shot Megan? We know it wasn't Quan yelling or intervening in the shooting action, because he's the only one we know of who tested negative for gun residue. And nobody says a word about Quan's actions during the actual shooting. We only know that Quan was involved during Megan and Kelsey's fighting and trying to get Megan back into the car when he heard police sirens. Outside of that, Quan was basically non-existent during the shooting scenario. That was all Kelsey, Tory, and Megan. And that's because all 3 were on that passenger side where the shots went off. Quan was not. It also matches with Tory telling police that night that he was just trying to protect his girl. But yet all of these things are left out of our non-biased reporters' articles on this case. And if all the facts were reported on this case the way I break it down, there wouldn't be so many confused on why so many believe in Tory's innocence. Because only a deaf, dumb, and blind man can have the excuse of why they can't see what really happened here and how this man is innocent in this. So that 13-year sentence is a hard reach that will more than likely never happen, especially since they violate their own policies on those sentencing enhancements to even get that number. So if the judge was to sentence Tory to prison time, it would have to be on the lower end of the spectrum, which would be 3 years, not 13. Then they go into the evidence that the prosecutors claimed was so overwhelming. Prosecutors had no DNA evidence, no evidence the gun belonged to Tory, no bullets, a lying victim, a lying witness, another witness that they had to send SWAT after, no footage, Instagram posts that were also lies, like the little juju post about the bullets being matched to Tory's gun, an Instagram comment that said it wasn't true that people were accusing Kelsey of the shooting because it wasn't. All blame had been on Tory since day 2 of this incident occurred through the blogs, and an apology call and text with no mention of a shooting. That's all I can really think of. The only thing prosecutors really had was Megan's word. No witnesses and no evidence against Tory. The only thing social media can ever bring up is that phone call from jail. And Tory has already said what he was apologizing for during that call and text. And it had nothing to do with him shooting anybody. It was because he started the argument in the car between the girls and the fight to happen because he exposed him and Megan's secret in the car. And what's funny is both Kelsey and Megan confirmed that Tory was the one who escalated the argument in the car by bringing this up. And Megan admitted that she didn't want Kelsey to know and knew that she would be upset about it. So that's why she never told her. Which would explain why Kelsey got out the car and started beating on Megan like the witness said. Correct? So it's not unbelievable that Tory was apologizing for that, since that's the only part of all 3 people's story that match pertaining to the fight in the car and what it was about. So why are we still running with the speculation that he apologized for shooting Megan when that was never said out of his mouth, but only prosecutors? Is speculation considered facts and evidence now? Or is it because it would make the lot of you feel stupid if you accept the fact that he really could have been apologizing for what he said he did that night? And if you accept that that's a possibility, it makes Megan not the victim she claims to be. The same way y'all had to accept that sad reality about Miss Carly Russell and her many lies, right? But I digress. They also bring up how Megan and Kelsey have completely different stories of what happened after the shooting. Because remember, Megan told detectives that both Tory and Kelsey ran up to her after the shooting trying to help her. Tory was apologizing and they had both helped her get back into the car. But Kelsey told the DA that this was all a lie. Only she came over to help Megan and Tory stayed in the car. And when he did come over, he fought her and Quan had to break it up. Megan doesn't recall this fight between Tory and Kelsey at all. Not to mention, All witnesses had different versions of events that night. Worst of all, none of those versions matched Megan's version of events. So what story is the court going with to prove he's guilty exactly? Only Megan's? Kelsey's story doesn't match Megan's. It's hard to believe they were even in the same car from her story. She basically said that Megan's entire story is a lie, and none of what she said happened, while claiming that the version that made Kelsey a saint in the situation was the truth, while also needing immunity the moment she stepped into court. Sean Kelly never told anyone that Tory shot Megan. He never said it that night. He never said it in multiple interviews. He always said that the girls were fighting and the shots came from the girls or girl, Kelsey. He also said he saw Tory trying to wrestle the gun away from the girl. Kelsey was basically named as the original shooter the same night it happened, and she tested positive for GSR, yet not one time was Kelsey treated as a suspect. She was even named an unknown woman in blogs in the beginning. The fight she had with Megan was completely left out of blogs, and even the lead detective's reports during his investigation. And they only took Tory's DNA, but not the other 3 people in the car, so they were unable to even verify whose gun it could have been. That's where the shitty investigation job and railroading comes in at. In what world do you have an eyewitness tell you he saw 2 girls physically fighting outside of his house before shots were fired from those same girls? Those girls are then pulled over and have evidence all on their bodies of a physical altercation between each other, like he said. One of those girls tests positive for GSR, is kicked out of her bestie's house on the same night, fired, and yet not treated like a suspect. If you can honestly say that they did their job with that information, it fully explains why our justice system is the clown show we see going on now, because y'all don't know any better. Tory doesn't have any remorse for a shooting because he wasn't a part of that. And we can't say that he was never remorseful for the situation because he's been apologizing since it happened. And not one time has he tried to drag Megan through the mud. Instead, he expressed how much he still cared for her and wished that she didn't have these people in her ear making her go through with all these lies. He even downed social media for dragging her in the beginning without knowing anything about the story yet, still holding on to the guilt that he was the cause of everything that happened. That liquor made him a little too loose, and loose lips sink ships, and he did just that in a major way. The blowback of that one little expose in that car that night, he probably never thought would lead to all of this. But you can never underestimate a woman scorned. Love can turn into hate so quick, and you never know how a woman will respond to what she deems as betrayal. A woman scorned is a saying for a reason. We don't have shows like Obsessed and For My Man for no reason. And after this Carly situation, it really shouldn't surprise anyone the lengths that a woman will go to over a man if that was Carly's reason for doing what she did, because I don't know, but y'all get what I mean. In this situation, Tory has been apologetic for the entire thing, regardless of him being the shooter, because he feels like had he not said anything about him and Megan's relationship, none of this would have happened, as anybody would had they caused something like this to happen just thanks to liquor and emotions running too high. So I wish anybody would make the argument that he should get all that time just based off of not being remorseful. If y'all are going to keep claiming that he was apologizing on that call for a shooting, then he's been remorseful for that shooting, right? What else do y'all want him to do? Actually say he shot her out his mouth to feel more validated in your belief of his guilt? Oh, but wait. I thought he had already admitted to that in that jail call, so shit, I guess that ship has sailed too. What other ways can Tory be remorseful for not shooting Megan? Just curious. Now, as far as the whole alcohol abuse thing goes, they are just using that to make an argument on what he will do if he gets probation, to show that he does hold some accountability in this situation, regardless of his innocence in the actual shooting. And drinking was the thing that caused this entire situation to happen. Megan and Kelsey had been drinking for hours. Tory had like 5 shots upon entrance. Jealousy was involved. A triangle between friends was involved. You mix that all together and you end up with 2 best friends fighting on the side of the road over breaking girl code. One too ashamed to admit what she did to the public. The other two afraid to go to jail, so they did what women do. Blame the man. So in my personal opinion, I don't honestly believe that the judge ever really planned on giving Tory, excuse me, y'all, any real hard time. Definitely not anything close to no 13 years, especially with no DNA, no ownership of the gun, no bullets, a lying victim, lying witnesses, lying social media posts, no footage, conflicting accounts, etc. What exactly is he supposed to give Tory 13 years based off of with that information? He can't even argue he wasn't remorseful enough like some judges like to do. What's the strong piece of evidence that should give Tory 13 years? I really want to know what it is because I haven't heard it yet. And I really want to hear it. Shit. The fact that people still think Tory is guilty after what Kelsey did should be a crime within itself. Like, for real. Social media needs a mental health check before allowing some of you fools to sign up, because I legit just can't wrap my mind around the stupid shit I see concerning this case. And it's embarrassing, really. Almost as embarrassing watching a lot of you fall for the Carly story when there was a whole video showing her lies in living color. Like, I just can't. I can't. That situation should let you know that the lot of you are not as woke as you think that you are. You are damn near brain dead if that bullshit did not smack you in the face way before it did. And I really don't care who I offend with that. More of us need to wake up and pay better attention to what's going on around us, because it's quite clear that eyes are wide shut around here. And it's just a bunch of majority see and majority do going on. Everybody waits to see the general consensus, and they go with that. When that consensus changes, they go with that. Whatever seems clever, that way they can be involved in the conversation. They parrot what they hear and see from others, and the cycle continues. There is no real thought or care about any real thing until that real thing affects you. We've stopped caring because we can fake it now. We don't really have to do anything to pretend we care for social media. If you care too much and try to bring awareness, you care too much for someone who you don't know. You're trying to get chose. You hate women. You hate men. You hate this and that, etc. And it's okay to make jokes and talk shit on real life situations, because that's easier. That is the easier lane to ride in than actually having to give a fuck and try to really make a change. We have become some real comfortable motherfuckers with bullshit. And that's why the lie spreads much faster than the truth, because the truth ends the bullshit. And when there's no more bullshit, there's no more drama. And we must have our drama. Because if there's no drama, there's no views, there's no revenue, there's no likes, there's no love, there's no attention from a bunch of strangers watching, but not doing nothing. Now, with the way this case has been going, it can really go either way at his sentencing. He can be hit with 13 and shock us all, or he can be given just probation and rehab or a minimum of 3 years. Does he deserve any of that? Hell no. But this is where we are now. So no matter the outcome, it is not the end for Tory. And he still has plenty of chances to fight for his freedom. And I'm sure he's not going to stop after whatever his sentencing will be. Unfortunately, his trial just did not go as expected. And there were a lot of errors made that really hurt him going forward. But hopefully in the future, that can all be resolved. Now, I hope for the best for Tory. And it's always free Tory. Even if he only just gets probation, free him from that shit too. That's all I got. So with that being said, I want to thank all of those who tuned into this video. I want to send a special shout out to all of those who stayed around until the end of the video. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel, and I will see you all later. Goodbye.